Thank you, Megan. Today, Justice Di Luca delivered a decision in the matter of off-duty Constable Michael Theriault. The service accepts the court's findings. Following the end of the court's 30-day appeal period, we will be able to commit further with regards to this matter. At the conclusion of the criminal proceedings, 3 more investigations will continue. The Toronto Police Service will resume its professional standards investigation into the events of the evening of December 28, 2016. On July 18th of 2017, Officer Theriault was served with notice of hearing and remained suspended under the Police Services Act. Secondly, the end of the criminal proceedings will trigger a Section 11 report under the Police Services Act. And third, there is still an ongoing OIPRD investigation. In 2017, I requested that the mandatory Section 11 be completed independently to ensure its integrity. As such, I asked Chief Larkin from the Waterloo Regional Police Service, and they will be conducting the investigation and will deliver their findings directly to the Toronto Police Services Board, which will then make it public. As Chief, I can't deny that this matter will have an increased strain on a relationship between the police and the community, specifically the Black community, especially those who have lived experiences of discrimination in the justice system or by the police. I speak to those today when I appeal to you to take this decision to voice your concerns, your experiences, and your desire for change in a peaceful and constructive way. We know that public trust is everything, and we as an organization will do absolutely everything we can to ensure that we have the public's trust. And with that, I'll take questions.
Thank you, Chief. Our first question is from Brian Passafume from the Toronto Sun. Brian, please go ahead.
Oh, there, I think I'm unmuted now. Can you hear me now?
Yes, go ahead, please, Brian.
Okay, great. Sorry. You've kind of already answered my question, but I'll kind of put it a different way. I'm not asking you to speculate, Chief, but what becomes of him now? Is there any sort of a chance for him to continue his work as a Toronto police officer after these?
I'm sorry, Brian. You're fading in and out.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's better.
Yeah, sorry about that. You've already kind of answered my question. I won't ask you to speculate, but yeah, after all these proceedings are done, do you feel that there's a chance for him to continue his work as a Toronto police officer in the city?
I won't answer to that. Listen, the big picture right now, first and foremost, Dafonte Miller received a life-altering injury. He lost his eye. And so, my heart goes out to the Miller family. We have a lot of work to do as law enforcement, and when we look at what's going on in today's environment, there are a lot of people that have concerns. Our organization has done everything we possibly can when it comes to maintaining public trust, and we'll continue to have those discussions, and we'll continue to listen, and we'll continue to work with, within law, anything that we can to enhance public trust to the best of our ability.
That's it. Thank you.
Next question's from Christina Tenaglia from CP24. Christina, please go ahead.
Hi, Chief. I'm wondering how the public can have trust in, some of these investigations you listed, including the investigation by the Office of the Independent Police Review Director, when former Detective John Theriault, Michael's father, has since retired, meaning he's no longer subject to this investigation. And is he still subject to any of the other investigations?
Well, I know the OIPRD is conducting its investigation. There have been a lot of concerns about collusion with respect to this. I have been investigated. I continue to cooperate to the fullest of my ability, and whatever instruction the OIPRD needs to ensure that we can maximize to answer every question that we possibly can, we'll definitely do everything that we possibly can.
And Chief, lawyer for Dafonte Miller, Julian Faulkner, is calling for a federally ordered review and inquiry to those in racialized communities that are injured while in police custody. Do you support that?
I support anything that enhances public trust, And when we look at the laws that are out there today, and we look at when they were created, and we look at today's environment, today's pressures, issues, concerns, the question that often arises, do things have to change? And does public consider the existing system to be valuable or to be in their best interests? And so as long as there are continued discussions that are specific to that narrative, we as an organization, when we talk about enhancing public trust, when we talk about our goals, are community-centric. We represent part of that community, and whatever we can do to enhance value in today's environment is something that we'd be very supportive of.
Christina, do you want to ask your next question?
Yes, I had another question for the chief. Thank you very much. Chief, you've made it clear that you don't support a defunding of the police budget, and this past week, Mayor John Tory and Deputy Mayor Michael Thompson talked about a detasking of the police, which would result in some capacity of a defunding of the police. And something that lawyer Julian Faulkner talked about is, police services spend money on guns, but less so on accountability. Is it time to maybe detask the SIU in some way, considering the lack of public trust for this organization where something happens and the public can't get any kind of insight because an organization like yours, the Toronto Police Service, is prohibited from commenting in any way? Like we saw recently, for example, in the case of Regis Korchinski-Paquette, you made some comments, which was unusual, but normally we don't hear that.
Yeah, so again, there's a lot of criticism whenever the police criticize oversight, but what I do is I speak to the voice of the community when it comes to that. There are oversight mechanisms, and I think that in order to get this right, there has to be equal value on community responsibilities, on community questions that need to be answered. Back in the day, we withheld a lot of our information. A lot of our stuff now is open source, instantly accessible. A lot of our investigations we are more open with to the best of our ability because the added lens of community trust, not just investigation, is becoming more and more of a critical discourse that's taking place. So if there are tools that can address that aspect of making public more aware of what's going on and more transparency, that's a good thing.
Next question's from Molly Hayes at the Globe and Mail. Molly, please go ahead.
Thanks, Megan. Hi, Chief. You said that you didn't want to speculate or answer an earlier question about what Constable Theriault's future looks like with TPS, but can you be more specific about why or can't?
Yes.
Sorry, why you can't right now. I know you mentioned follow-up investigations, so yeah. I want to know what exactly is it that you're waiting on before you can say yes or no about his future with TPS?
So under the Police Services Act, I will have someone that represents me as the adjudicator. And so if I start saying things with respect to what outcomes or expectations that I believe, then it does not provide a fair opportunity for the tribunal process. And so by me staying neutral, it allows a better opportunity for fair and impartial decisions that may be made when it does occur in real time.
Okay. And thanks, Chief. And so what do you say? I mean, you mentioned, how some communities, particularly the Black community in Toronto, is going to receive this verdict today. What do you say to people who are upset by this?
Well, first, I'll say thank you. And the reason why I say thank you was because back in 2017, my request was to please allow the trier of fact to hear the evidence. There were two dominant stories that took place. And although others took one storyline and did not speak to the other storyline, it caused a grave divide. And so now by allowing the case to continue and be heard by the trier of fact, to hear evidence, not speculation, to make judgment opinions based on the evidence that was presented, and the fact that 16,000 people heard. So this is something that's unusual, and I guess I would say one of the upsides to the pandemic, in a sense that normally in a courtroom you have maybe 100 people that get to hear in real time what's going on. This, I think, creates something that awakens the community. People actually got to hear exactly how methodical Justice Di Luca was. He took a tremendous amount of time, a tremendous amount of research to really formulate and put together what his conclusions were based on evidence. And so now it does create a starting point for truth and discussions and less speculation to see what the go-forward looks like. And again, appreciating that there is an appeal period, and so things could change within the next 30 days. But it definitely, I think, sets a more legal or lawful discussion of fact.
Okay, that's all the questions we have for today. Thank you, Chief.
Okay, thank
Thanks
you.
very much for joining us, everybody.